Hello and welcome to another episode of Fintech Focus TV with me, Toby. This is the first episode recorded since the Financial Technologist magazine has come out, where we revealed the most influential financial technology companies of 2021. One of those companies is who I'm talking to now, and it is a great pleasure to welcome onto the show James Lynn of Currensea. James, how are you?
Very well, thanks. Very well indeed, Toby. Good to see you, and good to have the opportunity to talk today.
It is absolutely brilliant to have you on the show, and we've been having a little chat beforehand, and it's really exciting. I think you're in an amazing space, and I'd love to hear a little bit about the company so far. So I've been privileged with that honour thus far. Everyone else hasn't. Tell us a little bit more about Currensea and what you're doing over there, and your background as well, please, James.
So my background was all in foreign exchange, building electronic trading platforms for investment banks, and Currensea is actually all around saving people money when they spend abroad, giving them the best exchange rates in a really easy, convenient way. So when they go abroad, they can save money. That's the simple elevator pitch.
It's never a bad pitch to have, isn't it? When you're talking about the simplicity of saving people money, and it's a sector that's been really interesting because in terms of foreign exchange, it's people traveling, etc. We haven't had the easiest year and a half or so. Tell us a little bit about how you've navigated those waters.
Well, last year we launched right at the beginning of the year and had a fantastic response. Huge numbers of customers picking up the card in Q1, and then Q2 clearly didn't go quite according to plan, and numbers sort of everything fell off a cliff, and so there were some moments there where we were getting a little concerned.
Timing's everything, as they say.
Timing is everything. But then Q3 came along, and the doors opened, and again we had a massive surge of people wanting to pick up the card, and we weren't even doing huge amounts of marketing out there. It's just people were getting wind of this through word of mouth or just seeing it on social posts or whatever, and it resonated incredibly well.
So I was looking and doing a bit of research beforehand, and it was seed funding to kick the business off, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you sat there at the start of the year. You've raised some significant funds at that sort of phase. What was the reaction in that Q2? How did you deal with that, and what was what was going through your head?
Well, it's never ideal when you've got lots of friends and family who've put money in, and suddenly the world's fallen apart. It's never ideal. But I think for us, we saw it as a relatively short-term piece. Yes, it was an unprecedented pandemic, but in terms of that, you can either roll over and declare defeat, or you can see, okay, this is happening. Travel has stopped. So what do we need to do in the short term? How can we use the opportunity to improve the product? Just really invest in things which we otherwise just wouldn't have had time to do because it was so manic and busy. So we took that opportunity to really start building on the product.
I love that, and it's I'm so pleased you said it, because I think it's I've sort of termed it offense versus defense in the last year, and there's companies there who literally sort of curled up and said, right, we've got to hibernate and survive, and there's others who said, right, if we can attack this, we can use it as an opportunity. And I've had some great shows over the last year with people who've really sort of spoken about the element of opportunity in all of this, and through the chaos, that there's been opportunities there to sort of really work on the business and get yourself set up for success, and for it to have happened as early in your lifetime as a business, to be able to come through that and be able to utilize it and take that mindset into it, where it's sort of freeze or fight effectively in that sort of situation, to come in and fight and to use it to your to the benefit of the product. It's great, and I loved hearing about that product, because look, you sort of said it in a very succinct manner at the start. But for me, the interesting thing about what you're doing is you look at a product that isn't a unique situation. There's a number of different people who've got this going out to marketplace at the moment, but you've looked at the areas of pain, the points of friction, the points of opportunity, and you've done something about that to create value to the marketplace. Tell me a little bit about how you were looking at that and how this came up as a niche in an existing niche that's already out there in the ether.
Yeah, so we looked at the segment and published from our own use, and we were pretty happy with our bank accounts. So banked with one of the major banks. My co-founder banked with another one of the major banks, and we basically didn't have a problem with our banks. And the more people we spoke to, the more we found actually people weren't that interested in account switching to solve these problems. And so anyone who used an existing product, whether that was a sort of prepaid card or a challenger bank, they were doing the same sort of thing. They were basically opening up a second account. And the problem was that involves moving money across into a second account and then keeping track of a balance and then keeping on topping it up all the time. And then finding at some point that a card gets declined over a dinner on holiday and the embarrassment of that, and then getting home and figuring out how to take the money off again. And it's just all really high hassle factor. So the more people we spoke to, the more we found had got some of these products and either left them in the back of their drawer after a year and totally forgotten about them, or just couldn't be bothered in the first place because the perceived benefit was just not enough for all that hassle. So we found there's actually quite niche in this, even though a lot of people were taking up these because of it. So we wanted to do something a bit different here. And so we came up with a card that links directly to an existing high street bank account. So when people go abroad, instead of using their normal debit card, they use our debit card. And the key difference is they don't get charged any fees. So it's as simple as just using a different card. There's no topping up, no prepaying, none of that. So it just removes all the inconvenience and hassle and the fees. So it went down incredibly well based on that.
How does that work? It sounds obvious, doesn't it? As these great innovations usually do. It sounds like an obvious sort of trick. You've taken out all of the friction points of that process. Because look, you mentioned a very interesting word or two words there: perceived value. And I think when people look at foreign exchange in particular, or money abroad, you look at it and you don't think it adds up, but it does, doesn't it? I mean, for a family of four, I think the savings of using cards in this sort of instance can lead to thousands of pounds worth of difference over a year.
Yeah, it's a big difference. And you think, maybe the average high street bank can charge it's between 3 and 5% per transaction. Yeah, that adds up. And especially people start paying for hotels on it. And if you've got a family who are off on a nice holiday, nice jaunt off to Florida, the cost of some Disneyland, a few of these things, you don't get a lot of change out of a chunk of dollars there. And it's hundreds of pounds difference for a holiday like that. So it's like either you give away hundreds of pounds or you just use a different card. So I think most people have spoken and said they know what they prefer to do.
And so you've come in there and made it easy without having to move money from here to there and have that sort of second card and second account, etc., etc. What's the mechanics behind that allows that to happen?
Yeah, I mean, this has all been enabled by open banking. So it's basically enabled us to take the existing bank account and just enhance it by putting almost a layer over the top. So without open banking, this just wouldn't have been viable. But it just means we can partner with those existing banks and just enhance their proposition. So it's all around open banking, and that's been it's been around a couple of years now. And there was a particular aspect of this which we were the first ones to use, and still the only ones in Europe who have built a debit card based on open banking. And it's that innovation that's enabled us to achieve this. So it's all based on those foundations, which is based on ultimately change in regulation.
Yeah, and which is that area, that unglamorous area, allows a lot of glamorous things to happen all of a sudden, doesn't it?
I mean, it was a creation in the first place to enable competition, and I think that's exactly what we've done. We've given customers choice so that when they do go abroad, they can choose to use their bank's debit card or our debit card or any other products out there. But we just give a very, very convenient mechanism of getting into bank rates with no fees. What
has been the response of the incumbents to that for you? So if you look at the banks themselves, what's been their reaction to this sort of upstart coming stealing their lunch?
Well, I mean, yes. So we take away some of the FX fee revenue, but at the same time, holistically, we are improving their proposition. So for the value of a customer to a high street bank is huge. So if we're offering a product out to the market, which means that customer is less likely to switch to a challenger bank or go elsewhere, then actually holistically it's a great product for that bank. So I think actually most of the high street banks have been really positive about the whole thing. I think we wouldn't be something they'd go out and market to all their customer base, But as a product on the market, if someone's looking at reasons to switch bank account, and actually they see, oh, there's currency, we can just use a currency card and keep our high street bank account. That's fantastic. It's a win-win.
I think there's an understanding from the banks at the moment that this need for enhanced customer experience, isn't there? And from being, maybe 5 years ago, very competitive with the sort of fintech challenges, it's actually become a lot more collaborative over the course of the last couple of years. And if I look at the meta themes of high performing businesses at the moment, it seems that collaboration is very much at the core of how that works and what's happening within it. So those businesses that can allow the consumer, the customer, to be able to sit there and say, right, I want to have something very bespoke to me that allows me to deal with my specific problems and allow me to bank, to operate the way I want to do. That sort of fits very much into the profile of what you're looking for, I would guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us, it's all around partnerships and how together we, working with those larger banks, can give customers the best proposition. And so customers get to be able to have something very, very tailored for themselves, just through what we do, open banking generally. And I think that's definitely led to a far more of a culture of these partnerships.
Just talk to me a little bit about the growth of the business, because you've just spoken there about you started off in Q1 with a bang and everything was going great guns, but you said something very interesting to me, that there was limited sort of marketing within that, a lot of marketing spend, particularly in that second wave, which is probably even more understandable when the market's just coming back to life and summer opened up a little bit for people to travel and all of the gateways and such like. And I imagine we're probably going through a sort of similar thing in the coming months as you sort of get ready for the airwaves to open up again. Tell me a little bit about how a business like yours at a time like this is able to get that noise out there and to gain market share and to sort of be pinpointed out as a growth company, an influential company, and somewhere there's excitement about. How you've done a great job at dealing with that in a difficult time. What's the secret to your success there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best marketing is brand advocacy from existing customers. So existing customers love the product. They will tell friends, relatives, acquaintances, you've got to try this product. It's amazing. And that's the sort of reaction we get when people have used the product. We had one investor came to us originally and got in touch on LinkedIn and said, your onboarding process was so sublime, I'd like to invest. And he went abroad with the product. After that, we met and we're talking about his investment. And he went abroad, went off to Spain, and used the card and sent us an email from Spain saying, I'd like to double my investment, please. It's so good. It's fantastic. So I think that's a great example. So people like that who have used the product, found out how incredibly easy it is, they tell us. So it's been a great.
It's literally been the sort of jungle drum that's sort of managed to move it from person to person to person. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's powerful. Very, very powerful mechanism.
There's a lot of noise at the moment in and I know you both got the sort of business end of it and the B2C side of it as well. There's a lot of noise at the moment in B2C about how that word of mouth thing's great, but there's also a lot of movement and you're seeing more and more of it in that paid advertising aspect, the social side of things as well. Have you invested in the marketing side of things? Is that something which has paid dividends, or is that something in the roadmap for you, or how have you worked with that? Because it's extraordinary to get to that sort of stage through word of mouth alone. And I'm just interested in the sort of, I've spoken to a number of B2C marketeers recently, and I think there's some amazing things that can really sort of take businesses very quickly, very far. Just interested in your whole take on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the digital channels is they are incredibly powerful at targeting a niche segment. If you're after a particular type of person, want to give a very specific message to that person, those digital channels are very, very powerful. So we had a little investment in them last year, but it's quite a small investment. So this year, as travel returns, we're definitely looking to double down on that as well as the recommendation. So once we get a few more people traveling in there, it's going to be a really interesting time to use those digital channels to generate their growth as well.
Put both bits together, absolutely. Yeah. So looking at you as being listed amongst the good and great of the industry in the Financial Technologist magazine. I think it's a really fascinating thing to look at, and it's being a bit of a geek. I sort of spent a lot of time poring over all of the different companies and looking for the sort of key themes and threads, and I've been very fortunate to spend the last year talking to very, very innovative and successful business leaders on this show. And it's been a real eye opener, a real awakening for me. And there's definitely common themes that sort of arise consistently through all those businesses. And just speaking to you, it seems there's a formula which is working very well for you within that as well. So you look at it and you're saying, right, as you said, you were there on the other side of the fence. You noticed an opportunity and you created something from it. That is not uncommon, as you can imagine, from any founding business to look at that sort of thing. We get so fed up with the problem, we solve it. Isn't uncommon within it there. What is uncommon, and however common sense it seems to do, is to actually put this sort of theory into practice of getting the right team together, of being able to look at the issue through the eyes of the consumer, and really solve a problem that needs to be solved with a process that removes friction from the from the process. So if we look at it, with you've looked at the complex way of solving a problem that was already existing, and made it that sense easier again for people. How much was that clearly planned and thought about, and tell me a little bit about the sort of making of the business and how that all came apart, and how it's been a cornerstone of how you've grown, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, one of our core themes right from the start has been simplicity, and we believe in absolute simplicity. So if you're solving a problem, unless it can be simple, if it's too complex to explain to someone over a drink quickly, or in the elevator or whatever, if it's too complex, you've got something wrong. So it needs to be an easy, simple message. What does it do? What problem it's solving? So we've kept that simplicity thread all the way through this. And I think everything we do, we judge against that as a sort of benchmark. If we're building something new, or a new feature, or a new thing, is it simple? If it's not simple, out it goes. It's not happening.
Yeah.
If it's simple and it fits in with the current theme, and that's quite an important thing as well, is that theme. If you have a theme and the product is set to fix a problem on a certain theme, there are loads of things you could do. You could bolt onto the side and go in all sorts of different directions. But then it's not simple anymore. It's a Turkish bazaar, and no one knows what it is anymore, and no one can explain it to their friends. In which case, you've totally lost the plot with that. So for us, it is all about just banging that drum of, is it simple? Is it on message? Is it down the same theme? And if it is, and people are enjoying it, then we know we're getting something right. So I think that's been the key for us.
I love that, and the Turkish bazaar is a great analogy to sort of throw in there as well. That we long living in my head with it all, because it is really tempting, right? There's so many different things that you can do in your space. There's so many things that can be bolted into it. There's so many things that you can do to almost run away with where the juggernaut can take you with it all, because it moves into lifestyle, it moves into different elements of it. There's so many different areas that you can tap into. That discipline of simplicity is difficult in itself, isn't it? And I guess that goes back to Steve Jobs and everything that Apple have always done. They've always tried to enhance features but keep it beautifully simply in the engineering of everything they're doing as well. But I think you're probably taking it even a step further within that, to keep as close to what you set out to do as possible. And that's great. That's brilliant to hear.
Yeah, I mean, they have a nice theme around that simplicity, and they have some very strong values as a company, and they build products and people love the products because of it. So again, I think we follow that sort of doctrine. And also I think we mentioned Amazon as well. We follow their sort of doctrine, which the reason they've been so successful is they've merged that convenience and value together. And I think when you put those two things together, that's when it becomes really, really interesting. I think one of those things on their own doesn't give you enough. But putting those two together is very, very powerful.
Yeah, I'm just making notes on that as well, because I think it's as I say, this is my opportunity in every single conversation I have to learn something new in this year-long MBA that I've been doing with the good and great of the industry. And that convenience and value in harmony is a really important part of it, and how people pursue that value and where you can do things. And I think you're absolutely right. Look, there's cost reduction, which is on everyone's mind for numerous different reasons. It has been ever since the sort of margins have been squeezed in every aspect of life over recent years. So cost reduction is one bit, noise reduction, friction reduction is the other side. And when you can put those two bits together to say, look, this makes my life easier and it's costing me less. That is I've got books stacked to left and right of me, all about Amazon, which is one of my favorite companies to look at in the world, because no matter what you think about them in many different areas, and there'll be people there who love and hate and all that sort of thing. I think the story of it is just phenomenal, and I think companies sort of move away from actually thinking how simple their model is in many ways, to really look at various different areas and iteratively improve it all the way through. And I think that's the right way of you looking at it, to say, look, Currensea at the moment is there and it's trying to be the very, very best at a part of the industry of what it's looking at. I imagine over time you've got a product roadmap that will move further forward and continue to add even more value. Tell us about the future. What's that look like? What's the possibility of the business, or is it just literally to stay in your lane?
No, I mean, I think the key thing for us, we're really focused on travel. It's an important area for us. So anything we can do to financially make that whole travel experience better is going to be an important start point for us. And whether that is helping people to buy things abroad or helping people save money when they put their hotel in the first place, that whole experience. But ultimately, I think we want to add value to that whole existing bank experience. So going wider across that as well. I suppose being able to enhance those existing bank propositions, and travel is a fantastic start point for us to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned about sort of moves around the concept of product management around there, and I think that's one of the areas where we've seen an awful lot of investment and growth over the last year. Last year in particular around companies, it seems to have become the sexiest job in technology over the course of the last year, as being good product managers who can really sort of take concepts and translate them. As founders, you quite often see founders who have that by nature anyway, and there's a growing trend. And in open banking, funny enough, as an area where I'm seeing more and more people who've been product managers in businesses then become entrepreneurs and start things up because they've seen opportunities to take that further forward. So traditionally, I think it was, if you look at the tech world, you've seen heavy technologists come up with things. The issue there's been is it's been very technology orientated, not as simple as being able to say it over a drink. But it's taken a fair few drinks to even try and half understand what's being said. Right now, there seems to be a movement of people from product backgrounds who are able to bring and fuse. And probably this has been about a tech education with people being more technical anyway, to be able to understand that. It seems to have really given a much more sustainable and successful industry and sector, with more success and less failure within it. Tell me a little bit about your attitude to product management and technology, and how you've managed to fuse those, because your background isn't from either of those areas, as far as I can tell straight away, right?
Yeah, so I mean, a long time back, I was spent time on the development side, building FX online trading platforms. And then I actually did do some product management stuff, one of the banks. So I've kept on a bit of both across a wide number of things. But our approach with Currensea has been the customer first. And I think you have to lead with that customer first. And it's quite difficult when you're wearing lots of different hats, because sometimes there's the sort of train of thought that, well, actually, if you ask the customer what they want, they would ask for a faster horse. The old
Henry Ford.
So you've got to be a little careful with that as well. But at the same time, you have to do something with a customer focus and think of it from that side all the time, even though technically some of the things, that might be good for the customer, it's going to be a horror story technically. But unless you put that customer first, you don't end up with that great proposition and that really simple thing that people are looking for. So I think it is crucial to have that hat on all the time and to keep coming back to basics and say, is this something the customer wants? You have all these bells and whistles, but do they actually want this stuff? Is there anyone out there? So hence we do some sort of consumer panels, and we get customers from around the country, and even different places around the country. You get very, very different responses to A, the products they're aware of, B, the sort of things they're looking for. So we take on board a lot of that feedback, And I think that helps drive our roadmap.
How have you shaped the team? Because it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because when you're there and you're looking at that, there'll be elements of, as you say, how do you get people using it as best possible? How do you get people knowing every feature that's available of it? And that when you're a customer first business, customer success becomes a very important part of that journey as well. Then you've got the tech and product, because it's what, about, it's less than 20 people at the moment. Am I right in saying that? Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you cover all the bases with that, with a business that's growing at the sort of rate that it can do?
I mean, I think one thing is people have to wear multiple hats. So you can't, if you look at a big corporate, someone will wear one hat very tightly in a lot of instances. So, we have people who definitely wear sort of multiple hats. So we have teams across, compliance, operations, technology team, the design team, the marketing team. So, we have different teams, but within those, people are definitely wearing different hats. And there is definitely a really big growth thrust across it all. Everyone shares the vision. And we have morning stand-ups every morning, 10, 15 minutes of stand-up. And just to make sure everyone knows where we're going that day. And once a week, we'll do a strategy session talking about what we're aiming for, what we're trying to do. And everyone knows the overall theme, which is getting an amazing product out there and just getting growth and getting the word out there.
Classically agile in the way that you've gone about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. An agile way of working, but also those sort of hybrid people and the sort of hybrid team like that. It's very powerful.
So tell me about the journey and what's to come then. So you're on this pathway. We've got an exciting time coming up. As you say, seed funded. I imagine Series A comes up in the not too distant future at some sort of stage where you look at the sort of scalability of it. That's speculation as opposed to anything else, though. Tell me what's coming up. Why is this an exciting year, and what can we expect to see from Currensea over the next couple of years?
Yeah, so this year, we're hoping, as everyone is, for a bit of a return to travel. So that would be amazing if we can get people traveling again and really going for it. We have a business proposition out there which is getting ground as well for SMEs, which isn't just focused on travel. It's focused on people buying goods and services from abroad as well. And that's resonating well, given everyone likes saving their 3 or 4% on FX fees. That's going well. So I think if we can get that return to travel, we'll see a huge boost in user numbers on our side. But we have an interesting product roadmap this year for some features which people have been asking for, and I think which will really help our customers in what they're looking to do in terms of buying things abroad and doing things. So we've got
do we get an exclusive on that?
You don't get an exclusive on that yet. It's all under wraps. Exciting things coming. And then we'll be looking at a Series A in Q4, Q1, depending on quite how fast that travel takes off again. And that'll really help turbocharge growth for the years ahead. So that's the plan.
Very, very exciting. Very exciting. And thanks for sharing it with us. Look, there's going to be loads of people, I think, who are interested in this area. And particularly when you start to move towards that sort of Q4 action in terms of the Series A who watch this. And I know there's a number of people who've invested and looking for good opportunities at the moment who are watching the show as well. For those who want to find out a little bit more and get involved in the journey, and like me, who definitely want to pick one of these cards up, what's the best way of doing that? How do we get in touch with you?
Just go straight online, currensea.com.
I imagine it's frictionless and easy to get to sign up and get involved as well.
Frictionless, very easy, very fast, very simple.
James, absolute pleasure talking to you. Listen, congratulations so much. I've loved talking to everyone over the last year or so, but particularly those companies who've started up just before or during this sort of thing. I find it fascinating. I think as a business that sort of launched, probably at the latter end of 2000. We were in 2010. So whilst 2008 was very much the eye of the storm, we were still relatively deep when we launched as a business, and everyone was always sort of scratching their heads as to why that was a good time to be starting a business. I've always felt there's opportunity when you can do that sort of thing, and to hear the refreshing sort of courage that I think you guys have done, and to be there and have done as well as you have, and to be and to have used it as an opportunity and to your advantage, I think is absolutely awe-inspiring. So I've loved talking today. Thanks for coming on the show. Congratulations with everything, and I wish you massive success moving further forward as well.
Thank you very much. Great to talk. Love to be on the show.
Likewise.
Thanks, then.
It's great to have you. James, thanks very much. And thank you all for watching. We'll see you soon on another episode of Fintech Focus TV. Thanks a lot.